Hello, my name is Swiss Bianco. In this video I will talk about the Carcano 91 Moschetto, the short version. To say it first, this item was for sale by dahlonega Golden Pawn in dahlonega, northern Georgia. They had a fantastical good deal on those items, and they still have those in stock, at least as I make the video in September 2021. So if you are interested in such an item, that is the place to have a look at, because for sure he has the cheapest price in the country. So it's mainly about the condition of this sample here. I had the chance to look at around 20 examples of that rifle there, and I selected me a Beretta made version from 1936. Beretta made not too many of those rifles. They had the contract split up with different other manufacturers there, and Beretta did make the least models. So for me, I did not know exactly which model I wanted to get, so I looked it up, and there is plenty of videos about the history and the different variations and this and that about the rifle, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but the Beretta version is the most rare. So as we look at the rifle, of course this is used. I was not able to figure out which country they were imported in. We see a relative nice stock grain. Now of course it has quite some dents in it. I'm gonna try to steam them out a little bit, but that was to be expected for such an old rifle. We have the typical spike bayonet below, and the final version of the locking, the orange paint, is from me. That is not factory. The muzzle is pretty good too. Of course the bayonet works, you simply press that in, and of course with one hand it's a bit more difficult. Then you swing that up and put it back in. So that works. They made different versions of the bayonet lock, and they had quite many of them there. I think it's sure 3 different other versions of the lock I saw next to that, and they had them all. This one had the final version for using. That is for sure the best. Then we have the typical sight on it. We have the combat sight as it is here, and you can press in here and then flip the sight over. That would be then for the different meter markings that you can adjust it and let it go. For me, as I use the rifle, I use the combat sight. I'm gonna explain that in a minute why that is. Then we have the typical carcano action with the in-block clip. We're gonna look at that in a minute too. Typical carcano bolt, nothing special there, and of course the stock. Now I have to reach around the camera. Typical stock. We have some things in it too about the condition. That is how that is. And on the other side we have the number. Unfortunately it's a bit tough to get slings for the rifle. They did rot quite likely all away. The trigger guard assembly with the magazine of course has some wear on it too. Now they put a new importer marking on and a new serial number. I did tape that off, and we see that that had some rust on it, that they did re-blue it whoever did that, but that is how that is. Then we see here the original serial number, some proof marks, and here the Beretta name and the year that it was made there by the sides. And then we have the sling mount and the bayonet again. So you see the condition is not like brand new, of course. That was to be expected, and for the price it's really good. The system inside, I took it completely apart. The barrel of course is used and has some darker spots and some rust too, but I would say more than 50% of its life is still pretty good in it. I did test shoot that item. Unfortunately there is not much ammunition around for it as of 2021, so that was a bit limited, but it works. It did repeat, it did fire, the safety works mechanically, the whole thing is in a good condition, so that all is safe to shoot. What we have to say about the sights are rather strange for our standards. So we have a deep V notch for the sights, for the rear sight. Doesn't matter is it the combat sight which is fixed or the adjustable one, and we have a contrasting design as the front sight. That is a bit often giving a trouble by do a correct sight picture to actually hit what you aim at. So the trick is, as best as I see, that the big V-notch top is the underside of the round target that you have, and the front sight needs to be really deep in the bottom part of the V-notch. So that gives you a really unusual sight with the target on top sitting on that V-notch, and the front sight is really tiny on the bottom into that big V-notch. But that did work for me. I did shoot at about a good 50 meters with the combat sight. The height was good, but we have to see that the side horizontal, you can't adjust it. There is no way you can adjust it. You simply have to do the hold adjust method to hit the thing. That is not like more expensive or more elaborated design like the Mauser. Back then they simply used it as that, for like that how it is, and yeah, that's how that is. You cannot adjust the sights completely perfectly well. Also it may be a problem of the ammunition, how far the PPU ammunition line ammunition that I could test out is up to the specifications of the original ammunition that was made in Italy during World Wars. Who knows? That is hard to say, but it works, it shoots, and if you know a bit where to hold and where to aim, then you can hit pretty good. Because the ammunition is soft point, that would even work legally in Georgia for hunting. The cartridge is strong enough. The recoil is not overly strong, not mild either. We have just a steel butt plate, so we have to see. This is from 1936, so that is quite old by now. Now for the ammunition, it uses clips like this that load from the top. I'm not going to show that. You basically slide it all the way down until it gets locked by this tab here. To unload, you need to press down on top of the stripper of the charger here down, and then push the thing in, and then it can release. Doesn't matter how many rounds are left at the end of the shooting. As the last round is shot, the empty part comes then out of the bottom, that is rather unusual. It's also about the dirt can get into the big opening at the bottom. There is no sliding cover or anything, so that is how that is. Now for people maybe from Italy that watch this video, my question is, how was that rifle carried in the World Wars? As I put the charger into it, you cannot push the rounds low enough into the magazine part to close the bolt on an empty chamber. You need to remove one of the ammunition out of the clip to be able to do that. The spring that is inside can't push enough down that you could close the bolt with the full rounds of ammunition in the magazine, in the gun. So I'm a bit in doubt how they did carry the rifle like that, say in World War II. Of course you have the safety at the back of the bolt, but that is rather uneasy to manipulate. You need to press in and push the thing rather hard, and sometimes if I don't push it as hard, the striker decocks the action. So maybe that is just by this rifle that way. Maybe that did work a bit better with other example, and as I say, it's really old. We can be happy that it has that condition like that it still works. So yeah, that is the question, how did they do that? The other problem quite likely is that in Italy you can't have guns with military caliber ammunition, as best as I see, at least by pistols and handguns. So maybe the knowledge on how that was be carried in World War II is gone, and my Italian language is not that good, so I can't research it how that was carried. But as I say, maybe somebody could tell me what was the deal about it, how did that work. Now, why did I get that item? As I grow up, back then we had the famous movies from Don Camillo and Peppone. This was filmed in Italy with Italian and French actor. So I grew up with that. That was basically a deal, like the one part was a communist, the other part was from the church, and it was really funny, a funny movie back then. So I like that a lot, and both parts did use exactly those kind of rifles with the setup, with a sling, and exactly that style of bayonet mechanism. Of course, you could not see in the movie if it was a Beretta made like this one or anything else, but at least I did get as close as possible, and that's why I did get that item. Not that that is for serious use, it's more for decoration and occasional use for shooting for fun. Finally I got that item for a really low price, because back then in Switzerland they did sell those rifles too, but they were always way overpriced for what it is. We have to really see the item is completely outdated and it's not in a absolute like new condition that would be a collectible yeah, for a museum or something like that. So they made later on 5 movies of that Don Camillo and Peppone team, and that was filmed in northern Italy by the big Po river, and you can look that up online what that is all about. And if you ever are close by there in that region, the little village is named Brescello, and it's really good there, really nice. They even have a Don Camillo and Peppone movie museum, and still many of the original filming locations are up there. So that is something unfortunately, even as I was back then in Italy, sometimes I never made it up there, but who knows what comes in the future. So yeah, that much about this carcano moschetto, the short version. It's really compact and lightweight, really easy to handle. Great gun in that regards, but of course it has many drawbacks because it's that old, the system and all that, but it's how that was back then, and that was part of the military in Italy for many years and decades, and yeah, it was great to test that out and see the positive and the negative, and it's gonna have a nice place in my collection. That much about the Carcano Moschetto.